first question of what I like to call postseason. Don't ask how I came on the spot. Who would you have predicted to win this season? And if it was Pillow that you did predict, if it wasn't a surprise to you that he won, how would have it finished if it wasn't Pillow?
Yeah, I thought I thought Pillow, uh, mainly because he's so consistent. His bad days are incredibly impressive. He manages to maximize everything that he can out of the situation. I never envisaged him being able to do what he did and get so close to the 10 wins and have the season that he had, mainly because in today's era of what is essentially a spec championship, although it isn't because of the engines and the dampers and the resources and various other things. It's really hard to get close to that mark. With the other giant teams around, so the likes of Team Penske, Andretti, Rahal, that kind of thing. I thought Arrow may be a bit closer. That said, I genuinely think Pato had a fantastic season, and his Achilles heel has always been when he's not winning, where does he finish? Where I've just said Palou maximizes every opportunity. Pato has hit the wall, or his off days are say slightly greater than Palou's, but he put that wrong right this season, and he had a great season. So he was just unlucky that Palou went and did what he did. And then, the surprise was how things unravelled for Penske. I thought Penske would be much closer than they were. But, I've not answered your question as such. I did think it was Palou. I didn't think it would play out like it did.
What was your favourite track to commentate this season other than the Indy 500, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Indy 500 was great just because of the spectacle, but less so this year. I think the Indy 500 was great because Palou managed to get himself into victory lane, and then that was very, very special for him. And it was great to see him break that duck, because it's well documented that you're not a true IndyCar driver until you've won on the ovals, and you're not a great until you've won the 500. And so for him to do that was spectacular. I don't have any particular favourite race apart from that, but what I will say is I really enjoyed the short ovals this year, and I really enjoyed watching, in the words of T Bell, razzle dazzle. Rasmussen was great, but there were some other fantastic races on the short ovals. You think that duel with Pato O'Ward and Palou as well, and the short ovals have been great. It's great to see more ovals on the program, and I really think the ovals under lights are really special, and they bring IndyCar racing to life.
How do you feel about Herta going into F2? Will it help him get into F1? And does being a reserve driver help him achieve that goal?
Well, first off, I think it's a farce that he can't just make the transition into Formula One because of the super license points. That's an absolute farce. And there's, I'm not being harsh there or opinionated, or, it's nothing short of a farce. And we all know the politics behind it. And that's just a real shame for not just Colton, but the fans. I think F2 is a massive risk just because of the Pirelli tyre and the nature of the car at the moment. The teams, the way they set up the car, and the way he's talked in the off season about that steep learning curve, going back to what he was doing in F3 back in the day, and having to unlearn a lot of the things that he's learned over the last sort of handful of years in IndyCar. I mean, his speed is second to none. I remember him when he was in F4 with Lando, looking at his data, especially in the inclement conditions. You know, he has a unique talent, a feel for the car, and his speed is spectacular. Whether or not he's got the time with the limited testing and the restrictions that you have in F2 about out of competition testing and that kind of thing, and whether or not he's got the car underneath him. We saw this year with the Wassa, you know, it's a really hard championship to go into. He'll have a lot of attention around him. You know, that won't phase him, but he'll have a bullseye on his back in terms of the other drivers just wanting to put one over on him. It's a huge risk, and you can say, well, it's not because of who he's employed by and the longer vision in terms of what he's working towards and that kind of thing. But professional sport is really fickle, and we see it across all kinds of different sports. Or, you know, we see it in Formula One where you have a bad 3 Grand Prix and all of a sudden people are questioning whether or not you should be on the grid and that kind of thing. So, you know, he has a difficult start to the year and has a difficult few weekends, and everybody will be climbing all over his back. And, you know, that rubbishes your brand. It puts you under pressure. It impacts you. And all of a sudden, you know, it's turning into a nightmare and not a dream. I don't necessarily think that will happen. I don't want it to happen. I think he's an amazing guy. I think he deserves to have success because of how courageous the decision is, and I hope he does. And everyone in IndyCar will be watching to cheer him on, because, you know, it's IndyCar's reputation at risk as well. He's a front runner in the championship, and you want to see someone who's a front runner in the championship go and show off in another series and showcase how strong IndyCar is at the end of the day.
From the drivers we know who are confirmed for next season, other than that one Dale Coyne, I think it's Dale Coyne racing car,
Yeah. Yeah.
who would you keep an eye out for? Which rookies would you keep an eye out as well? Like Kaio, Dennis, and Mick. Which one would you keep an eye out for?
Well, I think, you know, it's a hard championship. It's very, very difficult to show out. So we've got the logical and obvious contenders that are no point really mentioning who they are. They're going to be at the front. I genuinely think Christian Lundgaard will continue to build. And, you know, when his oval pace takes a step forward, look at Palou. You know, he was on a similar trajectory, brilliant on the street and road courses, and particularly the road courses. And it took him a while to learn how to go on the ovals. And I think Christian is in that space, is on that learning curve. Didn't have the best of times on the ovals with RLL because their oval program has not been that strong over the last few years. And he's got Pato alongside him, so now he's got a great car and he can learn and do all of the things that he needs to do to improve that side of his campaign. I think Christian Lundgaard has the resolve and the speed to be right up there, so definitely watch out for him. I think Mick is going to be very, very good. He impressed a lot on the IMS road course. RLL are very quick around there, so it wasn't really impressing against the others. It was them looking at the data. You know, Lundgaard's been blisteringly quick around there. So so's Greb. So they were comparing data like for like, and were really impressed with him. So, you know, expect him to go well. Dennis Hauger didn't get off to the best of starts in his Dale Coyne testing at Mid-Ohio, crashed the car, but has been really quick thereafter. He's obviously coming up from Indy Lights. So's Kaio Colette. I expect Hauger to do a solid job. He's in a Coyne car, so, you know, and he'll be compared to how VK went last year in the Coyne car. He's not going to be able to step in and do what VK did. VK worked wonders in that car. So I hope people give him the space and time that he needs, and don't put too much pressure on his shoulders and don't compare him to VK too early. But he's obviously a super talent. He's a super character. And then Kaio Colette, I was speaking to a former teammate of mine who's been working with Kaio for a while, and he says, listen, his speed's undoubted. So I expect Kaio to have shades of speed. Whether or not he has the consistency, can he step up? And the physical side, for the rookies, obviously Mick's at a bit of an advantage because he's been racing in Formula One. He's bigger, stronger, and slightly older, so he has that advantage. But for Dennis and Kaya, they're going to have to get in the gym. I was only talking to Malukas the other day, who was reminiscing about his first steps into IndyCar and how literally just he couldn't do certain strategies in the opening races on the softer tire because he wasn't strong enough. So for the rookies, they're going to have to work really hard, and it'll be a baptism of fire when we get going in March with 4 weekends in a row and not much time to recover.
Speaking about what you were doing with Malukas, explain the podcast that you and Mr. Hollywood Harvey have.
Yeah, Hollywood. So we're doing a podcast for IndyCar Live, which is the play-by-play platform for IndyCar. So you can subscribe and watch live IndyCar sessions across the season off of that streaming platform, and you can subscribe and watch our content as well for the off season. And obviously, it's great to team up with Jack. I've known him for a long time. We have a good rapport, and he's obviously still driving, but having just embarked on his TV career with Fox last season, we just chat to the drivers and we try and bring a unique insight using our knowledge and experience and some of the questions that come to our mind. We try and make it informative, and we try and have fun at the same time. I'd love it to be free to air, and we have had conversations around that, but at the moment it's still behind the paywall.
A couple of questions did come from me for a couple of drivers.
Yeah,
Whoever
no,
used it.
I know. So we put those questions in, and we try and get as many questions in as possible. Sometimes the drivers just talk and talk, like Malukas just talked and talked and talked, and you sometimes run out of time.
Is there any hints of which driver will be next on the podcast, or do we have to wait?
Yeah, they're all playing hard to get in December because they're trying to get their head down and enjoy the off season. But we'll twist one or two people's arms. We've got obviously 3 more pods to go, so we've got December, January, and February. So we've got some good guests, and they may not be a driver as well. It may be someone else. So watch this space. I won't give it away.
Whilst commentating while Fox have been off there, during the red flag part, is there any point you think, oh my god, what do I say now? Because I've said everything that's key, and there's like, how do I make the fans want to giggle or like get them involved?
Yeah, so it's not so much the red flag situations. I think there was one. I can't remember which race it was. It might have been Mid Ohio. It might not have been. But the Gulf had overrun on Fox, so there was lots of conversation about when Fox were coming on air, and they're quite fraught conversations in a short period of time. So we decided to come on air thinking that Fox would be 5 minutes after us. So I would fill at the top for a couple of minutes and wait for Fox to join. And then we went live, and I got in my ears from Neil Wooding, who does a remarkable job at Sky producing the IndyCar, that Fox weren't actually going to join for another 20 or so minutes. So he just said, you're on your own. You got 20 minutes to fill. And because it's the beginning of the race, nothing's happened yet. So it's just generic pictures of everyone standing in the pit lane. So you've got 20 minutes at the top of the program. I'm not prepared for this. 20 minutes is a long time to be live on air when you're not. I mean, obviously, I've prepared for the program, so I've got easily enough to talk about. But what I meant was, in my mind, I hadn't gone on air on the top of the show with a 20-minute fill in my head, and so when they just throw that on you, you're like, oh, and you just got to use your experience, stay calm. If you don't believe in what you're saying, no one else will. And try and have fun. You know, include the viewers, explain what's going on. Don't take yourself too seriously. And yeah, it was a delayed start, obviously, because they didn't start the race until Fox came, and we had a good bash for 20 minutes. But I swear, half the people at home have no idea, you know, how fraught and how difficult those moments are, and or it's even happening.
I think for some fans, if they'll clock on quickly that the race hasn't started until you hear Will Buxton.
Yeah. So will suddenly join us. But yeah, I think it was Mid Ohio. I can't remember which one it was, but it's definitely the golf that was overrunning.
Yeah, I remember that one now.
Yeah, yeah, it's good fun. So that was the biggest challenge last year. The year before was the 10-hour Indy 500 with the rain delay and everything else.
Mm. If you could choose any driver to join you in the commentary box one day, who would it be?
I've got to say Hollywood because he's my partner in crime. If it wasn't Jack, because obviously he'd be my number one choice. I think Connor Daly or Malukas would be two drivers who would be good value.
Daly would be good because it looks like he won't be getting a seat for next year, other than the Indy 500.
Yeah, well, you've still got the coin seat. Obviously, he'll be speaking to them, but Grosjean is heavily linked to that. And
And
Dreyer,
Sonoda.
yeah,
Sonoda is a
DR.
good one.
Yeah, Sonoda's been linked by the fans, but you know, we'll see how much weight is behind that in terms of, you know, Honda's pockets, and is there generally an enthusiasm from him and Honda to make that work? It's quite late in the day now. Or will he just stay as a, because he is committed to Red Bull as a test and reserve driver? Um, and then Connor has the dry rainbow seats obviously in his sights because Captain America Hunter Ray is obviously not going to be there next year. So it'd be good to see Connor in a full time seat. Listen, he deserves that. He's great value for the championship, but you know, at the very least, let's get him at the Indy 500 in that dry rainbow car.
At Gateway, when Fox were on their breaks, and you was commentating at 1 in the morning. What was you like? What was like? Was it loads of coffee just to get you through it because it was
You
one
know
in the
what? I'm
morning
well
for us?
versed now. I'm well versed, and actually, when you're on air, you get an adrenaline spike. It's just an adrenaline spike, a chemical release that keeps you going. But obviously, it's nice to have some coffee. I think was that the one where Newgarden ended up upside down? Because there was a point where every time I commentated on Joseph Newgarden, something happened. But there was a race where they literally went to a break, and the feed went to the onboard of Joseph Newgarden, and I came on, and it was just him coming out of four and ending up in the air and upside down the front stretch, and that was a bit of a baptism of fire to come in over those pictures.
I'm still trying to remember what happened because at Gateway
It's so long ago.
I was so ill. I somehow managed to stay up for the whole race, which I never do for something like Gateway. I was at 1 in the morning, but
Yeah,
somehow I managed to push through it while ill. I think being ill helped me stay up that late.
you've done well.
Funny enough, my next question is what happens when you become ill and you can't commentate on a race? Is there someone that comes in or like you're on social media saying, sorry, can't do this weekend?
Yeah, do you know what? And my wife says this: you can't be ill. The show goes on, so I've soldiered through so many different broadcasts and shows and that kind of stuff. That's a real challenge, and it is a worry because no one likes feeling ill. No one enjoys going to work when they're ill, and you have that performer element in your mind. So not only do you have those, uncomfortable feelings, you're worried about whether or not you'll do it justice, or whether or not you'll survive the show. Um, that's a challenge, and of course we're freelance, so you don't get paid unless you turn up. So you can't be ill. The only time I've missed something is when I had suspected appendicitis and ended up in hospital, and I missed Le Mans a couple of years ago. Um, but I couldn't do it from a hospital bed, so I had to tap out. But I did soldier through qualifying in absolute agony.
Now, some quick fire questions. Who will win next season?
Um, my heart wants Pato. I think he'd be a great champion. My head says Palou. It's just very hard to see past Palou. It won't be what we saw this year in terms of domination, um, but yeah, those are my top two for sure.
What team will win next season?
I think it's Chip Ganassi versus Arrow McLaren.
Who will win Rookie of the Year?
Mick Schumacher.
Who will win the Indy 500?
Yeah, good question. Very, very, very good question. So it's going to be hard for Palou to double up. Um, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to say Malukas or O'Ward.
Ooh, that's I want to say bold choices there.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's hard to pick the 500.